Are they asking us to drink this? Captain Ric's voice boomed through the ship's command center, disbelief evident in his tone, and mirrored in his officers' astonished expressions. Humanity had encountered countless threats since making its mark on the intergalactic stage, an arena filled with unimaginable horrors. Yet nothing had prepared them for this. Commander Voss cleared his throat, nervously eyeing the holographic display. It's true, Captain. Reports from the Delaware outpost confirm it. The Calvo Empire has developed a new type of hydroweapon, a fluid-based chemical agent with the potential to devastate entire planets. They've already used it in several sectors, annihilating civilizations within days. Now they've given us an ultimatum. Radek's rugged face tightened with resolve. And that ultimatum? Voss hesitated, glancing at the ominous message from the Calvo Emperor. Surrender or face total annihilation by hydro-assimilation. Earth is already targeted. The room fell silent. The Calvo were feared across the galaxy not just for their ruthless conquests, but for their terrifying biological innovations. The idea of a weaponized liquid capable of such widespread destruction had seemed like a nightmare until now. They called it the Aquam Dominus. Voss continued, breaking the uneasy silence. It can infiltrate any organic system, reprogramming it at the molecular level. Once it enters a planet's water supply, it spreads through every living organism, rewriting DNA and converting entire populations into Calvo. We've seen it in action, sir. It's unstoppable. A murmur of dread rippled through the officers. The Calvo were known for their ruthlessness, and if they claimed to have a doomsday weapon, they likely had the means to deploy it. Ric's brow furrowed deeper as he scanned the data feed. And they expect us to just surrender, to bow to their empire. Voss nodded. They know how valuable Earth is as a strategic resource. They think we'll capitulate rather than risk total destruction. Radek stood, his massive frame casting a shadow across the room. They're wrong. We're humans. We've faced extinction before and always fought back. A smattering of approval rose from the crew, rallying behind the captain's words. Voss remained unconvinced. Captain, this isn't like any threat we've faced before. This weapon doesn't just kill, it conquers. Once it's in Earth's atmosphere, we're done for. We be slaves before we even know what's happening. Radek stared at the holographic Earth, his mind racing. Surrender was not an option, and traditional defenses were useless against such a rapidly spreading weapon. They needed a solution no one had ever considered before. Have we analyzed the substance? Voss blinked, caught off guard by the sudden shift. Yes, sir. The Vanguard science team captured a sample from the Delaware site. Initial reports suggest it's a mix of heavy water, microbiological agents, and mnemic structures. It's water, but not any we've seen before. Highly reactive yet stable until it interacts with living tissue. Have they tested it on humans? Ric asked. Voss paled. With all due respect, we'd never get ethical clearance for that. I didn't ask about ethics, Ric said sharply. I asked if they tested it. Voss swallowed. Unofficially, yes. A small dose on isolated tissue samples showed catastrophic results. Cells began mutating almost immediately. And that was just a few drops. Ric's eyes narrowed. Just a few drops? Yes, sir. But the real danger is in its propagation. Once it's in the body, it spreads through the bloodstream like wildfire. It doesn't just kill. It transforms. Radek grunted, considering the information. What about other species? Have the Calvo used it on themselves? Voss shook his head. Unlikely. The Calvo are aquatic and have natural resistance to most toxins. Their biology is fundamentally different from ours. Ric's eyes flickered with a bold idea. What if we started slowly? What if we didn't resist it? What if we accepted it? The command center erupted in disbelief. Are you serious, Captain? Voss protested. That's suicide. Letting an alien bioweapon into our systems would kill us all. Ric's mind raced, connecting dots others couldn't see. No, not necessarily. The Calvo designed this weapon to assimilate. It transforms what it touches. But into what? Into something that serves them. What if we could change the outcome? What if we could reprogram it? Voss's face drained of color. Sir, the only way to do that would be to interface directly with the substance. Let it enter a living host and adjust as it assimilates. That would mean volunteers. Radek interrupted. We'd need volunteers. People willing to take the risk and see if we can fight it from within. The room fell silent, the gravity of the plan sinking in. It was madness, but Ric's eyes sparkled with defiance. The same defiance that had kept humanity alive through countless wars. There's a reason the Calvo haven't used it on themselves, Radic continued. They can't control it the way we might. They don't understand us. But we do. If we survive the initial exposure, we might turn their greatest weapon against them. Voss shook his head, but knew Ric's mind was made up. If we can't control it. Ric grinned fiercely. Then we give them one hell of a last stand. The room was electric with tension. Ric's plan was insane. But in the face of certain doom, what choice did they have? Surrender or fight back in the only way humans knew, by doing the impossible. Voss sighed, rubbing his face. I'll inform the science team to prepare for human trials. But Captain, who will volunteer for this? Who would be crazy enough to drink a hydro weapon? Ric's eyes gleamed with reckless intensity. We'll start with me. The room fell into heavy silence. Captain Ric's words left no room for argument. Every person in the command center knew the risks, but someone had to take the first step. Captain, Voss said with concern, you know this is a one-way trip. Even if you survive the initial exposure, we have no idea what transformation will occur. You might not even be yourself anymore. Ric's expression hardened, a hint of a smile tugging at his mouth. That's a risk I'm willing to take. If I'm going to ask others to follow this path, I have to be the first to walk it. We need to understand this weapon inside and out, and the only way to do that is from within. Voss knew there was no changing Ric's mind. He had led them through the worst, and kept them alive more times than Voss could count. If Radic believed this was their best shot, then it was good enough for him. All right, sir, Voss said, squaring his shoulders. I'll notify the medbay and prepare a containment field. We need to do this under controlled conditions. No one knows what might happen. Radic nodded, determination in his eyes. Do it. And Voss, I need a backup plan ready. If this goes south, and I become a threat, you need to be ready to take me out. No hesitation. Voss's face tightened, but he gave a sharp nod. Understood, Captain. Within the hour, the medbay was transformed into a makeshift lab, its sterile walls lined with containment fields and monitoring equipment. A team of nervous scientists and medics hovered around, their faces a mix of fear and fascination. In the center stood a reinforced glass chamber, holding a vial of the deadly aquam dominus. Radic entered the medbay, his heavy boots echoing on the metal floor. Clad in a standard-issue combat suit designed to withstand hostile environments, he was still vulnerable to the upcoming ordeal. Captain, we've set up a neural link to monitor your brain activity. Dr. Keller, the head scientist, explained. If anything goes wrong, we can shut it down immediately. But once it's inside you, we can't guarantee we can stop it. Radic met Keller's gaze with unwavering resolve. Just make sure you're recording everything. We need to learn as much as we can. Keller handed Ric a small vial of the aquam dominus. The liquid inside was a deep iridescent blue, shimmering with a malevolent life of its own. With a deep breath, Radic unscrewed the vial, staring at the potential death sentence in his hand. The room fell silent as everyone watched, holding their breath. Here's to humanity, Radic muttered before downing the contents in one swift motion. The effect was immediate. As the liquid hit his throat, Radic felt a searing pain spreading through his chest. It was as though his insides were being torn apart and reassembled simultaneously. He stumbled, gasping, as his vision blurred and his body convulsed. The monitors erupted in alarms, and the neural link spiked wildly. Captain, can you hear me? Keller's voice was distant, barely audible over the roaring in Ric's ears. His body was on fire, every nerve ending screaming in agony as the aquam dominus began its insidious work. But Radic was a survivor, not just a soldier. Clenching his teeth, he forced his mind to focus and fight against the overwhelming urge to let go. In the medbay, tension was palpable. Voss hovered over the emergency shutdown switch, eyes locked on Radic.